speech. Another modern method of interpretation, the reader response method. This one is really popular. We've got two words we're going to be using a lot: authorial intent. What did the author intend? And how is the reader to respond? Well, these days, we can respond any way that we want to. Don't know if you remember this. An example of this would be Puff the Magic Dragon. Do you remember the song? People said, Puff the Magic Dragon. That's a song about pot. And then they interviewed this fellow is the man who actually wrote the lyrics. What did he intend? Happens all the time. I don't know if you remember the song, I Get By With a Little Help from My Friends. Everybody thought that was about drugs too. John Lennon claimed this was not about drugs, but many people didn't believe him, including, by the way, Vice President Spiro Agnew, who told a crowd the song was a tribute to the power of illegal drugs. Lennon responded and said, "It's a catchy tune. But until it was pointed out to me, I never realized that the word friends were assorted drugs." Spiro Agnew said, no. This is the meaning of the song. What did the author intend? We want to practice authorial intent, not reader response. Try reader response at a stop sign. Well, sir, I thank you for pulling me over, but here's how I understood stop. We can't use it when we're communicating with one another, and we shouldn't be using it when we are trying to interpret the Bible. Otherwise, and maybe you've been in a Bible study like this, you'll find yourself in a Bible study that looks eerily familiar.
All right, so what we're going to look at today is Romans 8:28. I'll go ahead and read it. It says, "And we know that all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to His purpose." What do you feel like that means to you, Peter?
Well, I feel that God is speaking to me about how He takes care of us, and how no matter how things go, He's always there to work it out for us. I mean, that's what I feel that this verse is saying.
Good.
Yeah.
What do you think, Carlin? What do you feel like God's showing you in that verse?
Well, this kind of reminds me of karma. What goes around comes around.
That's exactly how I look at it. But I also think that God is trying to teach you that each and every one of us have a certain call in our life or something like that.
Like purpose.
Yeah, good point.
I mean, I feel like that God is a God of love. And since we're His children and He's our daddy, He would never let any harm come to us. I mean, He's always going to bring only good things into our lives.
That's absolutely crazy, Diane.
Jack, we don't do that here. She has her opinion, the way God is showing and moving in her life and speaking to her. Maybe if you give her a chance and listen to her, God might speak to you through her. Go ahead, Diane.
Well, like I was saying, it's always been my experience that, God is a God of love. He's my daddy. And since we're His children and He's our daddy, He would never let any harm come to us. I mean, He's always going to bring only good things into our lives. Exactly.
No, that's good. That's really good.
Yes. Everybody can have their own interpretation because so many people practice reader response. We are going to study grammatical, historical hermeneutics, understanding the grammar and the historical setting of the text, to understand the text as the original audience would have understood it. We practice authorial intent. What did the author intend for it to say? How would the original audience have understood it? Here's a rule for you. If your interpretation of a Bible verse is understood differently than the original audience would have understood it, you've got it wrong. We need to go no further than how the original audience would have understood the text. It doesn't mean it doesn't have a modern day application, but if the original audience didn't think that you could do all things like winning a boxing match through Christ who strengthened you, then we shouldn't be doing it either. So again, we are going to be using the inductive method. What does the text say mean? Then draw a conclusion. Not the deductive method, making a conclusion, then finding the evidence to support it. We practice exegesis, reading out of the text what it says, not eisegesis, reading into the text what we want it to say. We reject, what does the Bible say to me? Here's the answer. It doesn't matter what it says to us. The question is, what did it say to the original audience, and how are we to understand it today. So instead of attending a Bible study where everybody gets to give their interpretation of a text, a Bible study should look a lot more like this.
You'll note at the beginning of verse 3, or do you not know? And when he says, or do you not know, he's saying, hey, if you're breathing, you probably know this. This is common knowledge. This is Christianity 101. This is kindergarten level stuff. If you're in Christ, you know this. And so when he says, or do you not know, he is implying, let me remind you of what you already know. That all of us, the us is the same as the we in verse 2 and in verse 1. The us refers to all believers. It refers to only believers. And you'll note when he says all of us, he's talking about every single believer. So there's no exceptions to this.
Felt a lot better, didn't it?